Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was 9 years old when his father was shot while running for president in 1968. In fact, the Kennedy clan has always been a target for political violence, so it may come as a surprise that RFK Jr. has not been granted Secret Service protection so far as he makes his bid for the Oval Office in 2024. Now, after the weekend's events, some are calling for that to change. Democratic Governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, wrote this on X: "I encourage the president to immediately provide Secret Service protection for Robert Kennedy Jr."
Bobby Kennedy III made the following statement on X, quote, "Unsecured rooftop 150 yards away. Multiple witnesses saying they were screaming at Secret Service and cops for 3 to 4 minutes as they watched the guy with the rifle crawl to the spot and line up his shot. Take your Secret Service and shove it up your A. Prayers to Trump and his family." Now here to talk about this and more is Tony Lyons, co-founder of American Values and RFK Jr. PAC. Thank you so much for coming on with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So I want to get into this. This has been a topic on the campaign for a while, the denial of RFK Jr. security detail from the Secret Service. What do you make of this now? Do you see this changing given the weekend's events?
I think that if it doesn't change, it really borders on a criminal act by the Biden administration. I mean, they have done so much to dismantle democracy. And when it comes to the way they've treated Bobby Kennedy, so they colluded with big tech companies to censor him. They rigged the primaries. They rigged the whole debate system. They worked to get hit pieces in major newspapers. They denied him, the protection that he really is legally entitled to. They've sued him in state after state to try to keep him off the ballot. So they're spending all of this money to dismantle democracy. And then I think you see that it can lead to these kinds of things, that there are three major candidates and all three of them need just the best possible protection.
Yeah, I think at this point it's just utterly inexcusable, if it wasn't already, for him to not have Secret Service protection. Although at the same time, having watched the performance of the Secret Service during the attempted assassination of Donald Trump over the weekend, and obviously we need to learn more facts and have there be an independent investigation and understand exactly what went wrong. But so many people are thinking and looking, how could they have missed that rooftop that the shooter was able to fire those shots off from? Would RFK Jr. even want Secret Service protection versus whatever private security he is able to have instead?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we definitely need to have that investigated to find out what possibly happened there. But, Bobby Kennedy is entitled to this protection and he should be allowed to have it. And, then once he has it, he can work to make sure that it's good enough and that he can trust the people who are working for him.
Now, Tony, we've talked a lot about the financial backing behind RFK Jr., how hard it is to be an independent candidate given the political landscape in the United States. Not supplying RFK Jr. with Secret Service means that he is financing the security he has on the trail himself. And of course, finances are a major constraint that the Biden camp and the Trump camp don't have to consider in the same way RFK Jr. does. Can you give us an idea of what that figure looks like, if you know?
It's definitely costing millions and millions of dollars. So, Bobby Kennedy has said that 35 cents out of every dollar that they raise goes to protection. So, that's just another political game that they're draining his campaign by denying him the protection that he is so clearly entitled to and so clearly needs.
So the last few weeks, the politics of it has been a bad few weeks for President Biden, his disastrous debate performance, so many conversations about whether he's physically and mentally capable of serving as president for another 4 years or even right now. And then Donald Trump, surviving a attempted assassination, thankfully unharmed, very narrow. It could have gone, much different in a matter of inches here. Has this iconic photo, is changing his speech to focus on unity at the upcoming RNC. I know that many Democrats are basically giving up hope on even potentially Biden defeating Trump in November. How does this impact the Kennedy campaign and the message RFK Jr. is bringing on the campaign trail?
So it's clear that, Joe Biden can't beat Donald Trump. And, anybody who doesn't see that is really kind of blind to all the data that's come out. So I think that what the Democratic Party ought to be doing is looking at Bobby Kennedy, that he is the one who can actually, give Donald Trump a run for his money, that in the polling that we've seen, he beats Trump. And, that's an incredible thing that the Democratic Party hasn't looked at that option, that there are only two major candidates who can win this election, and those are Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy.
Now, do you think there is a possibility that that could change before the DNC, convention in Chicago? I've heard a lot of people that are not deep in the politics of the Democratic Party suggest that RFK Jr. should be the Democratic candidate and that they would likely beat Donald Trump if he was. When I think of establishment Democrats, I think that they would never touch RFK Jr. You've seen what a lot of these folks say about him. Do you think this is at all possible that delegates could get behind him?
Really hard to tell. I think there's this deep hunger in this country for a common sense outsider, for somebody who's going to make common sense common once again. And Bobby Kennedy definitely is that person. And he's a unity candidate. He has pledged to bring in people to his administration from all different points of view, Democrats, Republicans, outsiders of all kinds. So he's a great candidate for this moment. And I think that the only reason that the DNC and that the Democratic Party would not look seriously at Bobby Kennedy is corruption, is that they know that Bobby Kennedy is a danger to the swamp, to a certain sort of corruption in DC that has been there for a long time, that benefits lots of people, benefits lots of Democrats, and they don't want that to end. But if they really just wanted to win, then I think they would look very closely.
The rhetoric in the country around politics right now is coming under scrutiny. Obviously, you hear a lot of heated things from both sides of the political spectrum, but I think the way that many Democrats and many in the media have described former President Trump is right now especially being scrutinized. All this talk of Hitler and authoritarianism and fascism, and you can feel that way about these policies. I actually think many of the policies of both of our most recent presidents had authoritarian overtones, and I know RFK Jr. is, for instance, running on reversing a lot of the COVID authoritarianism that was so frustrating to so many Americans under both administrations. At the same time, if you demonize your political opponents to that degree, are you giving license? Are you tacitly encouraging people to resort to desperate measures? That we're being told democracy is at stake, but that at the same time, I would argue counter-democratic means have been deployed against, for instance, Donald Trump in terms of trying to keep him off the ballot, in terms of prosecuting him for a number of things. What do you think, and how is RFK Jr. reacting to this political moment in terms of the rhetoric coming from both Republicans and Democrats?
Yeah, it's clearly true that Joe Biden, said that Donald Trump should be in the bullseye. He's talked about violence in the past. He talked about the possibility of killing Putin. He talked about the possibility of blowing up the Russian pipeline. So Bobby Kennedy has repeatedly come out and said that he doesn't want to win an election based on political games, based on any kind of violence, based on censorship. He wants there to be real dialogue and debate. He wants there to be unity. And so I think that's what he represents. He represents somebody who believes in the Constitution, who believes in freedom, who believes in having a system of electing people in this country that is not as corrupted as we've seen it to be. And that we need really to have, not only real debate, but we need people to be elected with ballots, with ballots and, not ever with bullets.
Now, Tony, on a less serious note, I've heard you call him Bobby Kennedy quite a bit. Is that what we're going with now? Are we doing away with RFK Jr. when we refer to his candidacy? Is it Bobby Kennedy? I kind of like that.
Yeah, I really like Bobby Kennedy, but lots of people call him RFK Jr. So, there are a bunch of variations.
All right, Bobby Kennedy will continue to follow his candidacy, and as always, it's great talking with you, Tony. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much.